impact. We are delighted to have with us Ms. Sumaiya Noor, Chief Product Officer at Mpowa, as our esteemed resource person for this online session. With her extensive experience in health tech innovation and leadership, we look forward to gaining valuable insights into how emerging technologies can be responsibly and effectively applied in healthcare. It is my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker for this concluding session, Ms. Sumaiya Noor. And Madam has over 15 years of global leadership experience across product management, AI, digital transformation and strategy. Ms. Noor has held key roles at leading organizations like IBM, Telenor and several AI-driven startups. She has been recognized among the top 20 global product leaders of 2023, top 100 most influential women of Canada, and recently won the title of Chief Product Officer of the year 2024. A Fulbright Scholar, Startup Advisor, and a graduate of Purdue University and INSEAD, she currently serves on prestigious platforms such as the Harvard Business Review Advisory Council, World Economic Forum's AI Council, and the Canadian Blockchain Consortium. Ms. Noor's passion extends beyond the tech world. She is also a published researcher, an advocate for DEI and human rights, a naturopath, and a singer as well. So, Madam, we are honored to have you amongst us, sharing your insights on health tech, balancing innovation, ethics, and impact. Let's warmly welcome Madam. And Madam, the session is yours. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Koyal, for such a generous introduction. It's really humbling. It's my pleasure to be with all of you here. And I hope that the entire week of this faculty development program went well for all of you. Today, it's the concluding talk, and based on the theme of this faculty development program, we would like to discuss a few things in AI in health tech implications and balancing innovation, ethics, and impact. I will be presenting few of the overall industry dynamics and landscape, then what has been happening in the AI in healthcare sector, and afterwards I'll share a couple of case studies, and then we will conclude the session with key takeaways. Before I proceed further, although Koyal has already given a very generous introduction, but I think it's always really important to understand and know that why we are listening to someone, why someone is here, and what that person knows about the topic. So in terms of my experience, training, and expertise, I'll not go in all the details, but it's just that I have 15 plus years of experience across product, AI, and digital strategy, and mergers and acquisitions, and talent management. I've worked with the Fortune 100 multinationals as well as tech startups, and most recently, for past 5 to 7 years, I have been leading product, technology, data science, and engineering teams across various startups, across various verticals and domains, as usually Chief Product Officer or Chief Technology Officer. I got an opportunity to work across 6 continents, multiple countries, and I've led teams across all these continents as well. So rest, I will just leave it here, but I just wanted to give you an overview that why I think that I could add some value during this concluding talk, and I could bring all the things together which you have heard probably in the last 6 days, because when I was talking to Professor Durbuzi, she shared that who was presenting what topics, so I have tried to bring all of that together during this session. Today, we will be covering the overall AI healthcare or health tech landscape. Then we will see one industry case study. When I say industry case study, I would like to highlight here that it's not typically or completely based on industry scenarios. Rather, it's a combination of research and then the application of courses developed in the industry. Then we will have a look at another industry case study which is happening right now. Then we will also evaluate some of the ethical frameworks and how we can evaluate those and how we can implement AI in health tech or healthcare sector in a way that it's ethical and we manage the innovation or we balance the innovation part with the AI ethics and security as well. And then finally, it would be key takeaways. So this is the current landscape. As you can see that the opportunity for implementing AI in healthcare or health tech sector is pretty huge. There are predictions by major firms that by 2028, the market value for global AI healthcare industry would be around 1 billion globally. And by implementing AI in healthcare or health tech, there would be 40% better diagnostic accuracy by improvement in the radiology interpretations and other diagnostic tests interpretations as well. Besides that, AI in health tech implementation will also achieve cost reduction by 30%. And it will increase the, because of all these factors, the physician adoption is predicted to be increased by 85%. But they will be using these augmented AI tools along with the human clinicians or healthcare practitioners, whether those are doctors, nurses, or anywhere else working in the health sector. Although it seems very promising when we look at these numbers and these statistics, but I would really like to, like all of you, to take it with a caveat, because it's a fact that AI is transforming healthcare industry overall at a remarkable speed and with a very high level of accuracy. But at the same time, there are a lot of challenges which are there in the implementation across different institutions, across different organizations, and also across different facets of healthcare. And we will see some of those challenges and some of those problems during the case study evaluation later on in this conversation. Moving on. So this is a text-heavy slide, and I promise this is the first and last text-heavy slide. After this, you will not see this much text. So here it's really important to understand that AI is impacting various facets or various aspects of healthcare or health tech industry. It's not only using AI tools for increasing efficiency or effectiveness in augmentation with the human clinicians or healthcare practitioners. Rather, AI is completely revolutionizing all these 3 or 4 areas. There are others as well, but these are the 4 topmost areas which are getting revolutionized at this point in time by the implementation of AI. So first is drug discovery. AI, because we all know, has a huge capacity of analyzing a large amount of data in a fraction of time as compared to a human being. So for drug discovery, they can go to a huge amount of data and go to a very specific biological target, example protein pathways or other things, to see that which specific proteins or biological targets or other biomarkers are involved in specific diseases. The other side of drug discovery is that AI can enable a large amount of chemical compounds to be evaluated in a relatively shorter period of time. That will enable laboratory clinicians not to test and experiment with each and every medical compound or medicinal factor. Rather, they can pick and choose on the basis of AI model outcomes that which one they want to experiment with in the lab setting, and then they can develop the drugs accordingly. So AI can reduce the time, cost, definitely to a larger extent, and it can increase the speed as well, so giving more efficiency in the drug discovery process. Then if we talk about precision diagnostics, because AI can analyze large amount of existing medical imaging data, but also it can compare very accurately with the specific patient or specific client data with the existing data. So that will give a lot of to diagnose diseases like, for example, heart diseases, cancers, different neurological disorders, so on and so forth. And then one example which I would like to highlight here, because I've seen it in action in real life, that for example, you have an MRI scan. Now AI can scan those images along in augmentation with a clinician or a doctor, and they can detect different types of breast cancer. They can access the different stages of that cancer, and they can also access, for example, in case of a brain stroke, that what is the extent of damage to the brain afterwards. So now the question here is that, like, weren't the doctors or healthcare practitioners doing this before AI? The answer to that is yes, they were doing it. But first of all, there are two areas where AI is giving them an edge. First, the efficiency, because AI can look at large amount of those diagnostic images very quickly and then compare it with the diagnostic image, whatever that is, whether it's an X-ray, whether it's a CT scan or MRI at hand in a very short period of time. And secondly, the improved accuracy. Now we have two accurate outcomes which we can correlate to come up with the final diagnostic. One is AI outcome on the basis of all these scannings, and the other one is the specialized human outcome by the doctor or the specialist. And by correlating both those outcomes or diagnostics, we can come up with more accurate diagnostics, which will increase the precision of the diagnostic. Now, then moving on to robotic assisted surgery. Here, I would like to highlight few things that robotic assisted surgery is not only about using robotics to do a certain surgery, because it's always the augmentation. This is the highlight of the slide across all these four facets or areas, that it's really important to understand that AI is working currently in augmentation with the human practitioners, healthcare practitioners or doctors, whatever you want to call them. And it is the best way that we use the hybrid model. But at the same time, robotic assisted surgery means that there are two different types of benefits which we can get out of using robots. First, that doctors can see anatomical structures in real time. So they can touch, without even touching certain internal organs, they can feel that using certain hardware and softwares. And then they can also monitor the surgical progress in the real time, predicting the potential corrections, and they can provide timely alerts to surgeons, thus enhancing the overall safety and efficiency. Here, I don't know how many of you have heard or seen that, but one recent example would be that there was this neurosurgeon sitting in Florida, US, and recently, it's a very recent one, he performed a surgery using AI robotic assisted surgery devices, both hardware and software, and of course over the Wi-Fi. He conducted a surgery somewhere in Africa, and that was first in the industry. It's very recent, it just happened last month. And so this is the potential of it, like using AI in health tech or in robotic assisted surgery specifically. And final and the most important one, this is my favorite one, is personalized treatment. So I will not go into the details that how the treatment can be personalized, because it will depend on, of course, drug discovery, precision diagnostic, robotic assisted surgery, and then a lot of other biomarker identifications. But I will give a practical life example. So for example, so far, the world we live in, if a person gets diagnosed with any type of cancer, they either have to go to radiation therapy or chemotherapy or some sort of surgery. Surgery is fine because it's already very personalized and doctor decided on the basis of individual case. So is radiation and chemo. But the challenge with radiation and specifically with chemo is that chemo is a medication which they put across the body, and it impacts the healthy cells as well as the cancer cells. And that's why we see all those side effects of losing hair loss, or a lot of skin changes, a lot of internal hormonal changes, or with reducing weight a lot, and then a lot of long-lasting impacts after the chemo, even if the cancer goes into remission. And the personalized treatment based on AI comes to a point that AI can analyze the specific biomarkers for a certain patient. Based on those biomarkers, can you still hear and see me? Team, can you still hear and see me?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Because I heard there is a voice, so I thought that you guys lost me. So based on those biomarkers, then the patient's genetic information can be collected as well, and combining those two sources of information, very specialized and specific treatment, whether those are drugs, whether those are dosages of certain drugs, whether those are certain invasive treatments, can be finalized. And this is the, I would say, beauty of applying AI in health tech. But of course, it comes with certain challenges as well, which we will look into during the next slides. So this is the first case study from the industry. And again, as I said earlier, that it's not only industry which is driving these breakthroughs, rather it's a combination of, or the entire ecosystem, or a very collaborative effort between research, academia, as well as industry to develop these solutions. Maybe some of you, or maybe all of you, have heard about Google DeepMind's AlphaFold. Now, at this point in time, they are at their third version. AlphaFold 3 has been launched, but we yet have to see that what are the impacts of that AlphaFold 3 in better detection of protein folding and the prediction of protein folding. But if I talk about the existing models and what they have able to solve so far, that is pretty impressive and promising. So for last 50 years, scientists and researchers and people in the industry have been trying to solve the protein folding predictions, but they were unable to do it completely, and that has impact on limiting different drug discoveries as well as disease understanding and treatment. But with the advent of Google DeepMind's AlphaFold model, when the first version came in, it achieved, after first version, the second version achieved 90% accuracy in protein structure prediction, solving structures for 200 million proteins. And just imagine that if a model at a fraction of a time and cost as well can solve 200 million protein folding predictions, how much impact it will have on disease diagnostic, then understanding different predictors of the disease, and then also developing different drugs accordingly. And the impact is that, of course, the drug discovery has been accelerated. There is an enhanced understanding of genetic disease and how it gets inherited generation after generation. And the best part is that it is open source database, and that's why there are over 1 million researchers who are accessing it every single month. So that's what DeepMind's AlphaFold second version has been doing. As I said earlier, that recently they have launched the third version, but I cannot share any specific details about the third version because we still have to wait and see the impact of AlphaFold's third version. But even what they have been able to achieve through first and second versions is pretty promising, and it has impacted the healthcare industry right now to a larger extent. Now, moving to the case study 2, before we move to the case study 2, I just quickly would like to give you this details here that how they're using AlphaFold. So first, of course, they're using it for drug discovery, and the pharmaceutical companies were able to reduce the targeted identification times by 70%. And then, of course, genetic research, as I shared on the last slide, that because AlphaFold can predict the protein foldings for 220 million different type of proteins, that's why it's really important in genomic or genetic research to find or predict the rare diseases, and also to see that how they manifest in one individual, and then generation after generation they get inherited, and then targeting the personalized treatments accordingly for each generation or individual. And finally, the pandemic response in the speedy vaccine development and different other therapeutic strategies. Now here I would like to take a pause And I would like to bring your attention to the fact that although it looks very promising, and it has achieved quite a bit so far, the DeepMind's AlphaFold version 2. But we have to be very mindful here to look at the challenges simultaneously. So for example, although AlphaFold was involved in the vaccine development for COVID-19, but now when we are 2 or 3 years down the lane after people have taken COVID-19 vaccines, we know, according to the scientific research, and now the companies who have created those vaccines, maybe even Western vaccines or Chinese vaccines, that there are certain side effects of those vaccines which were not known at the time those vaccines were administered. At least that's what they have been, that they have shared publicly. Now the challenge, and though some of those like side effects are, for example, blood clotting, uh, like increased rate of heart attacks or heart failures in younger generation, and I will like to bring, like, correlate it with the increased number of heart attacks in the younger population of people across India. And if you correlate that data, the number of heart attacks or heart failures in the younger population after 2019 to 2021 period, you will realize that how it is correlated with the COVID-19 vaccine. So the point here is that although implementation of AI through Google's DeepMind AlphaFolds model is pretty promising, and it has resulted in a lot of positive outcomes. But at the same time, the challenge of unknowns, because AI is such an evolving technology and it's evolving at an exponential pace, that we cannot say right now that yes, it's supporting the accelerated vaccine development, but what would be the impact of that vaccine which has been developed in such a short notice in the longer run? And we have been seeing that, so some of those things now, after 2 to 3 years after like COVID-19 or pandemic. Moving on to the second case study, and second case study I would like to highlight the exact same challenges which we have just mentioned with the AlphaFold, but in a larger detail because we have more information and data available in the industry. And that case study is focused on IBM Watson's oncology progress. So this was the time when I was, during 2012 to 2016 period, where I was still working with IBM and I was involved with some of this work. I cannot share a lot of details, but whatever is publicly available. So IBM started working with MSK, and it's one of the largest oncology or cancer treatment as well as research institutes in the world, based in New York. And at that point in time, because Watson was such a huge thing and it has so much access to data, and the computational speed was pretty high, the computational capacity was extremely impressive. So everyone thought that now we can come up with extremely personalized cancer treatments, which happened to a certain extent. But when that system started to get used on a larger scale between 2017 and 2019, because the initial 4 years phase was mostly in the smaller experiments or smaller places, because cancer diagnostic and treatment is a high stake area. Entire healthcare is high stake, but definitely cancer diagnostic and treatment is even higher stake within the health tech or healthcare industry. So during 2017 and 2019, the researchers as well as clinical practitioners, when they got together and they started looking at the outcomes, they realized that IBM Watson has certain limitations. And the limitations were that the recommendations which this Watson system was giving was sometimes conflicting with the best practices known to the medical community for, like, if not decades, at least for few years. And there was limited real-world data integration as well. What I mean by that of course the AI model or the LLM is like based on certain amount of data, and many times that data is not real-time data which is coming in like that very moment. So that's why the model has some lag or some time lapse when it comes with those recommendations or outcomes. And in a treatment, high-stake treatment or diagnostic like cancer, like clinicians and doctors cannot take that type amount of risk. So that was the huge limitation of the model. current time period. The lesson which IBM Watson has learned, and I mean, we all need to have a look at that as well if we are doing research in implementing AI in health tech, if we are like trying to develop certain solutions, if we are trying to train our LLMs or other AI models, if we are using deep learning or machine learning for all those things, that first of all, it's really important to focus on the problem rather than the technology itself. So first you narrow down a certain product. It's then more important to train your LLM on the basis of that very specific problem if we want to come up with more accurate and very specific recommendations. And that's why the problem and model fit is really important. I think most of the people, whether those are researchers, whether those are developer of AI technology, or whether they are training LLMs for healthcare data or any other sort of data, the challenge with them is that they get immersed in technology so much, and we all have that propensity because we are excited about the technology or the potential of the technology. But at the same time, because health tech or healthcare is such a high stake domain on vertical, it's really important to narrow down a certain problem and then start training our models or LLMs accordingly so that we can come up with more accurate outcomes without staking someone's health or life or without putting someone's life at risk. So that is like some of the impacts or challenges. Moving on, this is something which is very close to my heart and it's directly relevant to what we have seen in Google DeepMind AlphaFold and then IBM's Watson model. The challenge is that many people start thinking about ethical use of AI in health tech once they have already done all the research, they have trained their models or LLMs, and then they have developed certain systems around them, and they have already have a product. Then they think, no, now we have to launch the product, and because the health tech industry is highly regulated, which is supposed to be and which is required to be, and then they start thinking about the ethics and then regulatory risks. And at that point in time, when they try to use certain ethical imperatives, that doesn't work. And that was the challenge which we have seen with AlphaFold as well as Watson's oncology model too. So both of them had faced the same challenges because they used the AI first and then they came up with like risk factors or compliance factors or regulatory risks afterwards. And we have seen that in real life it doesn't work. So then what works? The whole point of this specific chart here is that we have to start building ethics, compliance, and we have to start mitigating regulatory risk right from the beginning phase. And what I mean by that, so for example, let's start with the data. So if you are looking at certain data, it's really important to ensure that the data has equity in it, which means that the data is coming first of all from diverse demographics. So for example, this is real life example here. When we do research, and most recently I came across this problem. So for example, breast cancer, I understand that it happens in men sometime as well, but more than 90% known cases of breast cancers are diagnosed in women. And the challenge is when it comes to data, which we gather or which is available right now, where we can run our or train our LLMs, it's not mostly from women and girls, and that's a huge challenge in health tech industry. Then another equity challenge is the different races or ethnicities. So a different type of diseases manifest in different way as when it comes to different ethnicities or races. So for example, in black and brown people, there are certain types of genes present which are not present in Caucasian population, and vice versa. So if we have most of the healthcare data, which is right now available and models are getting trained on it, it lacks equity because if you're training your model on Caucasian data, then how do you expect it to produce right healthcare outcomes for the brown and black population? So start that equity process or building that ethics or diversity right from the data phase. Then moving on, privacy is really important. That's one of the biggest concerns. That yes, we are using healthcare data from million of clients or patients or customers, whatever you want to call them. But is that a consensual data? Did they provide their consent to use their personal healthcare data for training our models? And even if they provided yet access, are those models reusing and transferring that data for some other purposes? I don't want to go into the details, but I can give very specific examples, specifically in US right now, where healthcare data, which was used for different purposes, now has been used for immigration purposes and not in a very positive sense. So people are extremely concerned that their healthcare data now is used for immigration control purposes, which was never their consent. So that's first issue. Then second issue is, let's suppose the data is consensual. The patient has provided it with their consent. But how can we make sure that the model, the main model is not transferring that data across different systems? And that's where federated learning comes in. It has its own challenges, but definitely it provides relatively safer environment for training your models, where the raw data is not transferred to the server where the model gets trained, but definitely the model still pick that data and get trained on that. It has its limitations, it has its challenges. That's not the context of this presentation, it's beyond this presentation today, but that's one technique to ensure user privacy. Then comes the accountability. It's really important to understand that we need to build clear North Star metrics and governance right from the beginning when we start building the model from the data phase. It's not that you have to build it after building the model or after doing all the research or after finalizing the product or before launching it into the market. No, you have to build the governance framework right from the beginning, because that's how we would be able to mitigate compliance and regulatory risks if we will see or scan the market ahead of time. Then a very important concept of beneficence comes in, where the core of beneficence is that you have to prioritize patient welfare or healthcare outcomes for your end clients or patients. Now, there are conflicts of interest in this area, and again, without taking any names, but there are big tech companies which are currently using health tech data to advance medical knowledge, for sure. For making progress in health tech, for sure. But are they prioritizing their patient healthcare outcomes? We cannot say that it's like their top priority. And that's where the problem comes in, because the final focus for ethical implementation of AI in healthcare should always be prioritizing patient welfare and healthcare outcomes. So that is something really important, but unfortunately right now, whatever AI models or whatever AI systems we have available in health tech or healthcare, they are not they're not focusing on beneficence as much as they're required to. And then finally comes the transparency aspect. This is something which is in very rudimentary stages at this point in time, across Europe, across US, but there is an increasing focus on this area, and the reason for that is that right now, whatever outcomes AI healthcare tech systems are producing or products are producing, it's like a black box system. Like in software, we usually use that term, that the input goes in the form of raw data, and then the outcomes, like the healthcare outcome or diagnostic or whatever outcome is there, comes out. But nobody knows that what happens inside that black box system, how AI model or how AI product or how that AI system uses that data in order to produce a certain healthcare outcome or diagnostic or treatment or whatever that is. And that creates a lot of distrust among healthcare practitioners and doctors, because sometimes when they don't understand a certain outcome, they want to know that how AI came up with that outcome on the basis of certain inputs, so that if they want to tweak those inputs to come up with a more accurate or a very specific outcome, they can do that. And then there is lack of patient trust as well. So for example, put yourself in patient shoes, because because all of us use these systems. So if you go to hospital and the AI, like you provide all your symptoms or whatever you're facing or your medical history or healthcare history, and on the basis of that, AI just comes up with the outcome and like some diagnostic that you have X, Y, or Z chronic diseases, or X, Y, or Z treatment is required, or if you're taking this medication, then you need to change it, so on and so forth. Wouldn't, as a patient, you would be a little bit suspicious that without looking at how this AI is working, this system is giving me an outcome, why should I trust it? So that's a very logical question. And that's why there is a lot of increasing focus on explainable AI, though it's in very rudimentary stages right now. I'm currently working on these systems with one of the companies, but again, it's in very rudimentary phases and it requires a lot of work and a way more transparency as compared to traditional implementation of AI in healthcare. So these are 5 key ways. There are other ways as well, how we can build the ethical use of AI in health tech. And the key here is, if you can just remember one takeaway from this slide, that we need to build it right from the beginning, from the data phase to the end of the AI model outcome. How we will do that? Again, we will start with we will implement the AI ethics or AI regulatory or compliance frameworks at all these 5 levels. We'll start with the data foundation level and then we will move to the clinical integration. Now, clinical integration is really important. Remember on the previous slide we discussed that one of the reasons for Watson oncology model not so successful outcomes was lack of real-time clinical data integration. So first, you need to have that data foundation and you need to build or embed your ethics in the data foundation level. Then you need to create that clinical integration with the data and embed your ethical models or frameworks in the clinical integration phase as well. Then comes the technical infrastructure as well. Now the question which many of you must be asking, that how come if we are building the ethics into data foundation and clinical integration, it is necessary to build it in technical infrastructure as well. And the reason for that is the AI system or the way AI systems or LLMs work themselves. For example, there is a problem of latency. It's a well-known problem in AI or LLMs. Then there is a problem of very known problem of hallucinations, which means that if we will not counter that at the technical infrastructure phase, no matter how much we embed the ethical or compliance frameworks in data and clinical integration phase, it will again create faulty outcomes, which happens in the Watson oncology case. So those are a couple of things, but there are a lot of other problems, technical problems, which fall in the technical infrastructure or the inherent nature of AI models itself. And that's why it's really important to pick ethics, compliance, and regulation and see that what type of frameworks and what type of techniques we can involve during the technical infrastructure, setting up the infrastructure, and then training the model so that we can avoid all those type of challenges. And then finally, re-evaluating the model on governance and ethics on the basis of whatever we have implemented in the first 3 stages, and then seeing that whether its outcomes are aligned with the initial vision or not. If they are not aligned, then restarting that process from bottom up, and if they are aligned, then seeing that if there are any anomalies, if there are any edge cases, as we usually call it in industry or maybe in research as well, because no matter how good our AI model is trained, there are still cases of edge cases or anomalies, and that comes with really high stake in health tech implementation. And the reason for that is that even for one patient, if the AI model comes with the wrong diagnostic or a wrong treatment recommendation or a wrong medical or medicine treatment, that has a high stake of either somebody losing their life in the worst case scenario, or even in not that worst scenario of losing their life, but still they can lose. There is a lot at stake. So that's why it's really important for successful AI implementation in health tech that there should be a strategic alignment from data to vision phase, right from the beginning, and the AI ethics, compliance, and regulatory frameworks, techniques should be implemented at each different phase of this framework or model, whatever you want to call it. And with that, we'll quickly come to the key takeaways. So if you don't remember anything from this presentation, I would just still like you to go away with these top 3 things. First, which I always say about all AI models, but specifically for health tech and healthcare, always start with the problem and not the technology. I call it problem first AI solution building. And what it means that you have to find a problem solution fit. You have to look at a specific problem, then narrow it down and build the AI model or system and deploy it accordingly. If you will take it other way around, like for example, building or deploying the model first and then trying to find out some problem for it or a challenge for it, then it could result in whatever happened with Watson's or quality model. The second point here is that build collaborative ecosystem. And the key point here is that no one entity or individual or people in certain domain can work independently and come up with holistic AI-driven health tech system, which means that we need to create partnerships between technologists, clinicians, researchers, ethicists, and the key point here is that they should be from diverse backgrounds. Why that's the key point? Because right now, whatever is happening in AI implementation of health tech and healthcare, most of the demographics are very homogeneous, which means that people are usually coming from similar ethnicities or similar race or similar backgrounds or nationalities, and they don't understand the challenges of other geographies, for example, or other races or other ethnicities or other climates or other nationalities, and whatever data they are giving in, like the input itself is biased or input itself has an unconscious bias associated with it. So of course the outcome it will produce will come out with bias as well, because as we usually say, garbage in, garbage out in an AI model. And the last point here is, again we discussed it earlier, that embed ethics by design. Like don't look at the ethics towards the end of the process. Rather, integrate the ethical consideration at each of the 5 steps which we just discussed of the framework or development for the AI model in health tech, so that we can serve all the patients equitably. Because if you will not do that, again, you will not be able to serve minorities, may it be people of color, may it be women, may it be non-binary people, so on and so forth. And that, like, for example, one last point which I would like to mention here, that most of the AI model data on which health tech systems are trained right now, again, is of white males. So the genes are different, the demographics are different, the gene phenotypes, how genes represent themselves in certain individual are different according to the race, nationality, and so on and so forth. So it's really important to embed those ethics at all the 5 phases in different ways, so that we can come up with equitable outcomes for all the patients. And the final key point is the entire crux of this presentation, that yes, AI is revolutionizing healthcare and health tech, but the real potential of AI lies not in replacing human expertise, rather augmenting it. And many people, you may have heard from a lot of influencers and business tycoons that AI will replace, doctors, AI will replace nurses, so on and so forth. No, it's not feasible at this point in time. I don't see it happening in next 10 years either, because in that case, for example, if AI will take a critical decision of operating an individual, or if AI will take a critical decision of administering a chemo or radiation therapy to a cancer patient, and if that decision is based on hallucination, which AI models are known for, or there is any latency, which is another AI model known challenge or drawback, who will be responsible for that decision? Who will that patient go to later on that no, that was not the right decision? That's why augmenting AI with human expertise is really important, and that's the key or future of enabling better healthcare outcomes for everyone by use of AI in health tech and healthcare. And that's pretty much it from my side. I will be taking questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a very enriching and thought-provoking session. Your insights on balancing innovation, ethics, and impact has really inspired us. I would like to address the audience if they have any questions. Okay, so as of now, maybe because it's the concluding session of our FDP, there are no questions. But if anyone would like to ask anything, madam, we request you to kindly permit that we connect you over LinkedIn so that we can question our doubts. In the meantime, madam, in the screen, if it is visible to you, a small token of appreciation, a certificate from our end. Thank you so much, madam, for the time and the pain that you taken to address us. We understand, madam, that it's very early morning and you just up and you come for us, joined this online session for us only. We are so grateful to you, madam, for sharing your expertise with such clarity and passion. So thank you, madam. Hope that we will meet you someday here at Supreme Knowledge Foundation campus. Whenever you come to India and in Kolkata, please do visit our campus.
Thank you very much, Koel, once again for having me, and thank you so much to all the audience. It was my pleasure. I would love to visit Supreme Knowledge Foundation campus whenever I will visit India next time. And for all the participants, feel free to reach out to me. Like I have shared the QR code for my LinkedIn, but you can also find me by my name, Sumaiya Noor, on LinkedIn. And in case if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out and I would be happy to answer those as and when I can. And thank you once again, Koel, for moderating this session. It was really my pleasure. And thanks a lot, Professor Dilbusich, for having me. I really enjoyed it, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions now or later.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sumaiya, for your excellent session. And as we have discussed, we would like to start some product development under your guidance. My students will be working. And as Koel Madam has already requested, the request I already made you that we are planning for a conference. So we are looking for some international personality or the resource person, and we will be in touch with you so that you can be here in our campus as a guest. Thank you.
So ma'am, we are taking your leave. Good day, madam.
Yes, sure. Bye. I will leave, and I wish all the best to all of you, and I hope that this 6 days of learning will accompany you in your work or research, whatever you do. Thanks once again for having me, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye, madam.